Picture for me, if you will, you've just downloaded the Highlands fishing DLC. You want to get stuck in. You've started on a fresh save with no starting farm, no equipment, and very little money. How do you make it so that you can be as efficient as possible? Which, if any, of the new equipment that you can purchase do you go for? Which do you go for first? Which is the most valuable? Which is the least efficient? Fear not. This guide is going to show you exactly what you need to be looking at to make your farm as great as possible with the source of equipment you have. I'm going to take each item, I'm going to compare it to its nearest competitor, and I will show you which is better or worse, and then come up with an overall best value buy from this DLC. So buckle in, sit down, and let's make some money. It is important to note that I'm not going to be covering these four vehicles here, for the pure and simple reason that most of them are just going to be used for transport, and they don't really have any comparatives in the game that are going to be very meaningful. These two you can utilize to carry some smaller machines and stuff, but since they both only have 50 to 80 horsepower, it's not really going to make that much of a difference because the equipment you're going to be carrying isn't going to do a huge amount. And this is virtually exactly the same as the John Deere and the Skoda. I mean, Farm Sim are very much pushing Skoda down our throats, and they're nice cars, but I sold mine immediately on the starting farm. So we're not going to cover these because there isn't really much point, in my opinion. Which means we're going to be starting with the fastrac 2004 WS series. Now this is a small tractor, but it does go all the way up to 150 horsepowers, and you can have a front loader attacher, and you have many different wheel stand-ups that you can use, which is nice. You can also have 3 different designs of beacon light as well. We're not going to look at the Icera Pro Compact because that is precision farming and nobody's going to use that. It's not base game. This altogether, once it's got all the bells and whistles on, comes to £64,300. There isn't a small tractor that comes close to this in terms of cost and horsepower. They're all either massively higher in horsepower or massively higher in cost. The closest is the Claas Arion 410 to 470. Which is this here. It is a much newer tractor, however, it is so much more expensive as a result. If you want to get 155 horses, so 5 horsepower more than the JCB, it's going to cost you an extra £39,000 on top. Add a front loader attacher just for extra cost, and you're looking at £132,000 all in. That is double the amount of the JCB. All is not lost, however. There is a medium tractor or a group of medium tractors that you can use for similar to less cost than the JCB. And those are your Challenger and Agro Whites. These things are the MT600 series. They come at bog standard of 160 horsepower with a power shift gearbox, so it's not a manual and power shift. Has more fuel litre capacity, top speed of 40 kilometers per hour, so it's a little bit slower, weighs 10.3 tons. And it doesn't have a front attacher on it or a front loader attacher. What you can add is you can add an additional weight on the front and you can change your wheel types. But it's only £59,620. So realistically, you have to go up a grade to a medium tractor to get similar horsepower, not as much versatility as the JCB. So the JCB is actually a very good proposition. It is relatively cheap compared to all of its other competitors, has a lot of versatility, and it has a front attacher on it as well. So I would go with the JCB as a very, very good value proposition compared to what it's got in store for it on other tractors. Next up in the Highlands Fishing DLC, we have the Duetz Fahr 6230 TTV. This is a medium tractor. It comes with the ability to have standard or Lamborghini edition, or the Warrior. Interestingly enough, the Warrior doesn't change the colour automatically to black. You have to go into the design colour and change that. But I do like the fact that you can have it as a Lamborghini. That is really very cool. It comes with an engine setup all the way up to 230 horses. And it has different wheels and a front loader attacher on it as well. Then, of course, you can change the colour if you've got the Warrior. If you've got it as standard or Lamborghini, you can't. So that is something to bear in mind. The Warrior adds 2,000, as does the Lamborghini edition. So your adding £2,000 on for the ability to change how it looks. That's it. All in, this is going to cost you £226,000. It does have 230 horsepower. It does have a variable CVT gearbox, 420 litres or 29 LDEF of fuel capacity, a top speed of 60 kilometers per hour, and weighs 8.8 tons. This is a fantastic tractor, but then I am a Duetz Fahr fan. What compares to it? The easiest comparison you can make is Duetz Fahr to Duetz Fahr. If you want 230 horses with all of the bells and whistles, except for a front loader attacher, you go with the Duetz Fahr Agrispread 8.31, a much older version of the Duetz Fahr. It does not come with a front loader attacher, but it starts at a bog standard 230 horses, and it's only going to cost you £89,500, quite a bit cheaper than the newer 6230 TTV. But again, it's older, it has a power shift gearbox instead of a variable CVT, it only goes 40 kilometers per hour, not 60, and it is quite a bit less, so it's really down to what you want. But there are other options. I'm actually going to be killing two birds with one stone with this comparison, because you also have the JCB fastrac 4000 Icon series, which is part of the DLC, the same as the 6230, but they are very similar tractors. They both go 60 kilometers per hour, they both have a variable CVT gearbox, and they both go up to roughly around the same amount of horsepower, 235 for this one, opposed to 230 with the Duetz Fahr. This does have a lot more customization, however. You can have additional weights on it if you want, on the back, similar to the Claas. You can have many different wheel setups. You can have an interior carpet if you really want to. You can change your beacon light designs, and you can have a front loader attacher on it as well. So all in all, there is a little bit more customization with this, and this one comes in at £205,950. So very similar in price as well. Finally, in this lot of medium tractors, we have the John Deere 6R series, the 145 to 185. This is a really nice tractor and has been part of base game, but again, it's John Deere, so you're going to be spending your money on it. If you upgrade it to get the 234, so very similar in horsepower, and have the wheel setup change, the design and the Panorama window, does add an extra £5,000 to the cost. You can have a 3-point attacher on the front, which again adds another £5,000. Front loader attacher again adds quite a bit of money, and you're looking at £226,750 all in. So again, very, very close in cost and for what you get. What I will say is that the medium tractors are the most closely comparable. There are a lot of tractors that go up to and above 200 horsepower, but these are the closest 3 or 4 that I could find. I do think that the JCB is better value than all of these combined, because you can have those extra weights on it. There is a lot more customization, and ultimately it is a lot cheaper. It comes in around 20 grand cheaper than both the John Deere and the Duetz Fahr. So I would say go for the JCB in this section. Next up, we've got the New Holland T8000 series. Now, this is a new tractor that comes with the game. It adds another New Holland to the fleet. It is a large tractor. It goes all the way up to 359 horsepower. It has a power shift gearbox, which in my opinion lets it down quite a lot. I've been struggling a fair bit on the farm today when I've been doing some ploughing. It struggled to get up the hill. Has 682 litres of fuel capacity, a top speed of 50 kilometers per hour, and it weighs 9.2 tons. You get a little bit of customization. You can change the wheel setup and you can change the beacon lights for extra money, but that's really it. That's really all you can do, and it will come in at £132,300, which is a bargain. That is a lot of tractor for not a lot of money if you can get over that gearbox. But what's close to it? Just like with the medium tractors, we are killing two birds with one stone here, because the fastrac is a large tractor that again comes in very, very similarly stats wise to the New Holland. Where it lets it down from the New Holland is the price of this thing, because this is a new tractor and the New Holland T8000 is a little bit older. This again goes up to 348 horsepower, so not quite as powerful as the New Holland, but it does have that variable CVT gearbox and a top speed of 70 kilometers per hour, which is really going to help you in a lot of field situations. You can change the wheel setup and the wheel brand. You can again add extra weight on the back of it. You can have that interior carpet. You can change your designs of the beacons, and that's your lot. You don't get a front loader on this because it is a large tractor, but all in that will cost you £247,000. So over £100,000 difference between this and the New Holland. That makes the New Holland for me a much better viable purchase from the get-go because of that saving you're making initially. However, later on the farm, your fast track's probably going to be a very, very viable and good option. Is there anything else from base game that's better than this though? Actually, there really isn't that much in the way of similarity. The only things I've been able to find that have a top end of around the 360 mark is from the Plains and Prairies DLC, which is the Ford 976 Versatile and the Versatile equivalent. They both come in at a bog standard 360 horses. They both cost around the same as the New Holland. They both have power shift gearboxes, but their top speed is only 25 kilometers per hour. These are also quite big and bulky. They're articulated. You can have a front weight on it, so it has no front attacher. You can have additional weight on the back of it, very similar to the fast track, and that's it. So realistically, whilst these are very similar in the way of power, in every other way they're worse. So if you're looking for a fairly cheap, good, high-powered, large tractor, the New Holland's going to take it. It is a very good tractor. It's just that gearbox that lets it down for me. And everything else, you're looking at much higher horsepowers in the large tractor category. Another thing I'm not going to be making any comparisons on for obvious reasons is the MS Electron. This is an onion planter and is the only specified onion planter in the game right now. It suffers from the same issue that a lot of the vegetable planters suffer from, and that is that it only holds 27 litres. There are seed tanks that you can get. There is a Monosem. There is a Monosem variant of the seed tank that you can get, so you can add that extra capacity, but it only has a 4.5 meter width. And honestly, I'm probably going to be waiting until the Kinsey multi-planter gets updated before I use or start planting onions. But it's a nice piece of kit. It's nice to be added, but there is nothing to compare it to at this time. Next up in the list of DLC, we have the Monosem, the wingfold Valoterra Ultimate. This is a really interesting thing because there is two of these Monosem planters in the game, and I don't quite understand why the one we're going to look at in a minute is more expensive than this one. This one requires less horsepowers, same width as 6 meters, holds 1,910 litres, of which that is seed and fertilizer, has a working speed of 18 kilometers per hour, and you can have a ridge marker on for an extra £2,500. 74,000 in total. In comparison, you have the Valoterra TFC2. This is £72,500. It is the same width at 6 meters. It requires 180 horsepower to pull and only holds 840 litres of your seed. You can add a fertilizer distribution unit on it and then use the seed tank on front. But to add that fertilizer distribution unit, you're looking at £9,000 extra. Then you can have a ridge marker for, again, £2,500. So once all that's added, that takes the cost to £84,000. That's not including the extra cost of the seed tank you're going to need to be able to put the fertilizer in it to spread that fert. This is just not a good planter, in my opinion. I think that the previous is a much better value proposition. But is there any better in base game? The answer to that is not really. Now, there are two that are similar, but they're not really better. So first you've got the Kuhn Maxima 3-till L. And this seems good on paper, however, there was a bug when the game first came out, and I don't think it's been fixed, where you couldn't fill it with fertilizer. You could only fill the seeds, which makes this virtually useless, although it is only £59,000. It has the same working width as 6 meters, it only requires 150 horses, and it goes 10 kilometers per hour when working. But again, it's not fit for purpose, and it doesn't have the same working capacity as the Monosem. Next, we have the Horsch Maestro 9.75 RX. And this, again, falls into the same problem as the Kuhn, in that it doesn't have as much carrying capacity as the Monosem. It's also roughly the same price, which means it's worse, because if you have all the bells and whistles on it, it comes to £73,500, which is more expensive than the Monosem for less carrying capacity, and this one doesn't do fertilizer as well. It's a good piece of kit. It's a little bit longer, but it is not as good as the Monosem. So again, realistically, the equipment here is actually shaping up pretty damn well. Next in the DLC, we have something fairly simple, and that is seed tanks. You've got the Monosem and you've got the Vaderstad. One is 22,000, one is 23,000. One carries 2,100 litres, the other one carries 2,200. It really is a styling issue. It's nice that we got more seed tanks in the game. I don't think it was really required to be added to the DLC, honestly. A seed tank is a seed tank, but I like the fact that this one's got lights on it. And in interest of fairness, we've got the Vaderstad here. This is £23,000. You can add a 360 kilo weight to the front of it for an extra 600. It holds 2,200 litres. It weighs 960 kilos. But again, it's a seed tank. I'm not really too fussed. You let me know which one you'd rather buy, or if you'd rather go for the Kuhn that's in the game as base. Next up, we have a really interesting machine. This is the first base game piece of equipment that plants almost everything. It does wheat as well as cotton. It does barley as well as your soybeans. It is a multi-fruit planter, and that makes this possibly one of the best value propositions we've had thus far. It holds 2,200 litres. It weighs 10.1 tons. It has a working requirement of 300 horsepower and a working width of 6 meters. It has a working speed of 17 kilometers per hour. It will set you back £135,000, but honestly, if you don't need a mod to be able to plant most of the crops on your farm, I'd say that's a winner. This is honestly one of the most impressive things I've seen that's added to the DLC thus far. And there is nothing to compare it to, because everything else you need separate. Next up, we've got the Agrispread AS2100SCS. This is a spreader in the game, which finally is one that does fertilizer and lime. This makes it a very, very viable product indeed. And it's a bit awkward to compare with the Brendel K105, because you have more width with this, but a lot less carrying capacity for more money. So it really comes down to personal preference as to what you want more of, whether you want a more working width or more capacity. Personally, I will take the capacity over the working width every day of the week, because I don't like having to refill for my fields, and in the Agrispread you're going to have to do that more often. It comes with 9,000 litres capacity that cannot be upgraded. It weighs 4.7 tons and has a working width up to 36 meters. Has a working speed of 18 kilometers per hour, and as I've said, it will cost you, with all the extras, £70,500. Compare that to the Brendel. The Brendel K105 is still one of my favourite pieces of equipment on the farm. Fertilizer is still one of the most profitable contracts you can do. If you have all the bells and whistles on this, it's only going to cost you £55,750. That gives you 14,000 litres of carrying capacity and only a 30 metre width. So you lose out on 6 metres of working width, but that extra 6,000 litres of capacity almost. To me, that's a no-brainer. The Brendel wins it. This is the first of a couple in the DLC that is a no-brainer. It doesn't beat out the base game equipment for me. Next up, we've got the Bunning Lowlander Wide Boy 250 HBD. This is a manure spreader that holds 27,000 litres, weighs in at 13 tons, requires 300 horsepower to run, has a working width of 24 metres and a working speed of 16 kilometers per hour. You can add a boundary spreading system on for an extra £800, and you can have the EU or the UK warning signs. You can also change the colour on it as well. This is going to set you back £134,300, which seems pretty pricey. But let's compare it and see if there's anything close to that in the base game. There's nothing that carries exact 27,000 litres, but there is this. There is the Bergerman TSW6240W. This again is a manure spreader. It holds 25,000 litres. It weighs 10 tons and only requires 220 horses with a 24-meter working width and a working speed of 15 kilometers per hour. So it's a little bit slower, holds a little bit less, requires a lot less power, but only costs 110,000, which is about 23,000 less than the Bunnings. It's not a bad option. It's not a bad option. I don't think this is really a comparison. You're getting less, but you're paying less. So it's down to how much your budget really comes into. The other one that's fairly close is the Samsung US235 Dynamic. Now this holds more. This holds 30.3 thousand litres. Weighs in at 13.8 tons. Still requires less horsepower at 265, working width of 24, and a working speed of 16. So it's the same speed, same working width. Requires a lot less horsepower, carries more, but it's also a lot more money. This is £149,500, and for what you get extra, I'm not sure I would go with it. The deciding factor here would be what tractor I'm using. If I'm using the fastrac, for example, I'm probably going to be okay with the more horsepower requirement if I'm going for the large 8,000 icon. If I'm using, say, the smaller one, then obviously I'm going to go with this. But I think the price for what you get isn't worth it. I think this is another win for the DLC. I think this is another win for Bunnings. Next up, we have a simple trailer for you. The Bunning Series 140. This comes with a base capacity of 19.3 thousand litres, or you can have the extension on to take it to 31.9. You can change the wheel setup. You can have a trailer hitch on the back of it, which means that you can start to make a road train with these, and you can change the main colour. It's simple, it's basic, it's nice. It costs £36,250. Sticking with trailers, we also have the Bunning Series 200 comes with this DLC, which has 26,700 litres carrying capacity, and it has a cover on the back of it. It cannot be extended. You can take the cover off, and you can have a trailer hitch on this as well. And this comes in at £46,500. Quite a bit more than the previous trailer for quite a bit less, in my opinion. And again, if you add the cover, that takes the price up to $50,300. One of the trailers base game are close to these two rather impressive examples. Unsurprisingly, in the trailers category, there are a lot of comparisons that you can make, starting with the FarmTech DDK 2400. This is a dolly trailer, but it has a number of customizations, and that gives it a lot of versatility on the farm. If we go for just the straight up extension, this holds 28,000 litres, so a little less than the first Bunnings, a little more than the second. Comes with the ability to have a trailer hitch on it, can have a cover on it, and you can change the colours. It also costs a little bit more than the first Bunnings and a little bit less than the second at £40,100. Next up, we have the Cramp Kipper, the Big Body 750S, which holds up to 37,000 litres, which is quite a bit more than both of the trailers involved in the DLC. You can have the extension off for £15,000 less, and that will still hold 20,000 litres. All in all, this is a very, very good trailer, and you've got loads of different designs you can have with it as well. It will cost you £50,500, so it is a bit more than both of the trailers, but you get quite a bit more carrying capacity with that. We also have the Bratner DD24073-2XXL, which with a full extension on it will take up to 34,000 litres. So again, a little bit more than the first Bunnings. It will, however, cost you quite a bit more at £51,000, and it is a dolly trailer as well. Lastly, you've got the Flegel ASW271. Again, a lot more expensive at £52,000 as standard with 29,500 litres carrying capacity. But what you can do with this one is you can turn it into a manure spreader for 64,000. However, I think the price of this really does knock it out of the running to be comparable. All in all, the 140 has to take it here. It is a really good price point with a really good carrying capacity, and you can't really argue with good money sense. The Bunning takes this one. Now we get into sprayers, and this is where it goes a little bit sour from here, because there's no real good comparison for this sprayer trailer since there is nothing like it on the farm. There is nothing that carries 20,000 litres of herbicide or fertilizer at all outside of the cheaty mods like the Colossus. This is a good thing, but it means there really is nothing you can compare it to, because the only thing that you can is the Mammoth, which only holds 8 or 9,000 litres. It's also over £100,000 cheaper. Now, if you have the Precision Farming mod on, you can also add the PTX Trimble Weed Seeker and the Pulse with Modulation for an extra mind-boggling amount of money. This thing is huge and awesome, but again, there's nothing really to compare it to because there's nothing like it on the farm. Next up, we've got the Dammann D22800HS5, which is another self-propelled sprayer that we've added to the farm. This goes against the Dino and the Agrispread as well. I still wish they'd bring the original sprayer that they had in on 22 because I really liked the pair of those. But these new ones are not bad either. 285 horsepower, a variable CVT gearbox, 250 litres of fuel capacity, a top speed of 50 kilometers per hour, a base of 5,000 litres carrying capacity, weighs in at 10.5 tons, has a working width base of 24 meters but goes all the way up to 36, and the tank goes all the way up to 7,000 litres and has a working speed of 25 kilometers per hour. All in all, with all the bells and whistles on, not including the precision farming, you're looking at around £346,000. The Dino and the Agrispread are two very similar things. We're going to have a look at them, but this is a really nice midway point between the two of them. Looking at the Dino, it has the same horsepower requirements as the Dammann, has a variable CVT gearbox, 275 litres of fuel capacity, a top speed of 50 kilometers per hour, only holds 6,600 litres, and has a working width at base of 27 all the way up to 36, and a working speed of 25 kilometers per hour. So you can't increase the capacity of this, but it's only going to cost you £336,000. So again, I believe the Dammann is a little bit more expensive, but you get a little bit more for your money with that, because you can't increase the capacity of this. It's got 400 litres less than the Dammann. Next up, we've got the Agrispread, the Condor Endurance 2. This has 400 horsepower, a variable CVT gearbox, 750 litres of fuel capacity, a top speed of 60 kilometers per hour, 8,000 litres carrying capacity, weighing in at 14.6 tons, and a working width of 36 meters wide, all the way up to a gargantuan 54. Has a working speed of 25 kilometers per hour. Now again, this is way more expensive, but you get a lot more for your money. You get that huge working width and an extra 1,000 litres on the Dammann. You also get a much faster travel speed, and you get the ability to change the rim colours as well. This is a great piece of machine, but at £438,500 is a lot of money to be asking. All in all, I think the Dino actually takes this overall. The Dammann is a really nice midpoint, but the Dino only has 400 litres less carrying capacity than the Dammann, and it is quite a bit cheaper with all the bells and whistles on. Again, the same as the Monosem, I'm not really going to cover the onions because there's not a lot to do. And the Vaderstad, there's nothing like it. It's a potato harvester. It's hugely expensive, and it only has 9,000 carrying capacity. I don't think it's very good, in my opinion. I will just wait for the Colossus. However, we can look at the Claas rollant and the 630 and the 520 to see which is the better deal and if there's anything better in the base game. Starting with the 520 RC, weighs only 3 tons, has a 100 horsepower requirement, has a working speed of 17 kilometers per hour, and makes 1 to 5 centimeter diameter bales. You can have the different bale net, and that's all. It's £52,220. It's fairly cheap. It's pretty good. It's a baler that is cheap and cheerful and a little bit on the older side, I believe. Compare that to the Rollant 630 RC Unirap, and you get a little bit higher of a power requirement at 125 horses, a top speed of 17 kilometers per hour when working, and it wraps and does normal bales of 125 centimeters diameter. You can, of course, add the Rani wrap and the round bale net, which is going to bump that price to £116,220. So what are the balers like? What is close to that price? First up, we've got the Goel G1 F125. This is, again, it's another round baler. It has a 120 horsepower requirement, top speed of 17 kilometers per hour, and only does 125 centimeter diameter bales. It is a little bit more expensive than the Claas at £61,220. The only other real competition you've got are the new Holland and Case balers that do go up to 150 centimeters wide diameter. However, they are quite a bit more expensive. So it's really if you want that extra bale width to make the bigger bales to make the job a little bit easier because you're not going to be stopping as much. But realistically, for price, I think the Claas kind of takes it. I don't mind 125 centimeter bales. And if it's going to save me nearly 15 grand on the initial purchase, I'm down for that. As for the Unirap, I think the Fendt Rotana 160V Combi actually pips this one at the post. It's a little bit more expensive, but it does wrap at 150 centimeters. And it also bales at 125 to 150. Now, the 125 on its own, you can justify the 15 grand that you're saving or whatever. This is only a difference of around 6 or 7. And honestly, I think that is worth the cost. I think going for a bigger baler wrapper is going to save you more time down the long run over just getting a baler that just bales. So I think out of the Claas Rollant 630 and this, I'm going to say that the Fendt is better value for money. So there you have it. That is a complete rundown of all the equipment you get with the DLC. I'm not going to lie, I am pleasantly surprised by how good value a lot of it is. On the surface, you look at it and you don't think it's that great, but when you really dig into it, you see that there is a lot of value for money to be had there compared to base game equipment. Some of it, however, is not as good and is a very clear choice to go with the base game. But on the whole, it doesn't look that bad. Would I have liked to see more equipment in the DLC? Of course, everybody would. But let me know in the comments down below whether you think that this is a good evaluation, whether there's anything that's really tickled your fancy, or whether you were surprised by the equipment was there and whether it was any good or not. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Ciao, ciao.